Jupiter will be in Cancer from June 2025 until the end of June 2026. And Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. This is Jupiter's favorite place to be. It is the strongest here of any of the signs. And since Jupiter is a benefic planet, something that brings opportunity, growth, expansion, optimism, and so much more, this is a wonderful thing for all of us. So I wanted to talk today specifically about Jupiter in Cancer, and this astrology report is relevant for all signs. And this is a really positive transit. Not everything that's going on in the sky right now is peaceful and easy. We are definitely in a transition period. There is quite a bit changing and shifting. But I know that this Jupiter and Cancer energy is going to be really beneficial. And understanding the significations associated with it can help you to sort of lean in this direction and appreciate what Jupiter in Cancer is offering to us. So no matter where it is in your chart, there are a few things to keep in mind about Jupiter in Cancer. The main thing that I'm the most excited about, though, in terms of this particular Jupiter in Cancer, a transit that we only get every 13 years, is the fact that it's coming right after a Mars retrograde. Mars retrogrades are sort of a lot, and I feel like this one really was. Of all the personal planets, the Mars retrogrades feel the most profound for me. First of all, the fact that they go on for about 6 months, not the retrograde isn't for 6 months, but the pre-retrograde period and the shadow period where Mars is still working through the houses and signs where he had the retrograde. That whole thing altogether takes about 6 months. So Mars was working through this Leo sector of our charts this fall, this winter, and this early spring. So it may be that there was some area of your life that you've been working hard with to transform, but maybe progress has been a little bit slow. There may have been frustrations that came up for you around a certain life area, a certain project that you've been working on, or like I said, something you're trying to get off the ground. And it may feel like progress has been slow and obstacles have been encountered, and maybe you've gone down a couple dead ends and turned around and come back. And then Jupiter in Cancer coming in here is adding such an awesome amount of support for whatever that challenging life area was. So definitely think about what you've been working on. If you know your chart, understanding where Jupiter is for you can be extra helpful. But no matter where Jupiter in Cancer is in your chart, there are some things that we can always all keep in mind, and that's what I want to talk about today. So first of all, Cancer is such an emotional sign, such a nurturing feeling sign. We're going to talk about so many of these Cancer signatures today. But Jupiter coming here and sort of expanding and maturing and growing, there's a way in which we will come into greater emotional maturity over the course of this year. And that looks very different for different people, right? What that looks like for different people, what emotional growth looks like, what more maturity looks like, is something that is really going to be unique to us all. But that expansion of our emotional capacity, is it being able to be more present? Is it being able to be less reactive? Is it taking better care of yourself emotionally and showing up for others better emotionally as a result? So many different ways that increased emotional growth and maturity can manifest. And keeping in mind that it's not just for you, It's for everyone. We all have this transit active at this time. Another big point is related to emotions as well. I think this one is really exciting. Emotional security. Stronger, better emotional security. That feeling of safety, of belonging, of comfort, of, feeling like you put your keys on the table and took your shoes off and you're home and you're comfortable and you're safe and you're secure. We're all going to be expanding our ability to do that. We're going to be finding the right people to do it with. We're going to be spending more time with those people and in those spaces. And then through finding those right spaces and spending time and energy there, we're able to carry that emotional security into other places where it might be harder to feel that energy. But we have to get the practice in those good relationships, in those safe places. It's really the only way to carry that energy over. And Jupiter in Cancer is sort of all about that, all about this emotional security theme. And so I love over the course of the next year, us all expanding our ability and our capacity for emotional maturity and also just that feeling of safety and security. This is also an amazing opportunity with Jupiter in Cancer to heal what's been broken, especially in an emotional or relationship context. It could be relationships with others where things have been strained. It could be old emotional patterns that you can let go now, that you can see more clearly. It's like with Jupiter in Cancer, our emotions are a little more available to us. Things that normally might be subtle and sort of buried or working on us beneath the surface discreetly kind of come up to the surface and you can see them. So it's like an emotional availability, but not necessarily with others, although that too, but I mean, to ourselves, an ability to really go, oh, that's how I feel. And so through that, we're able to heal what's been broken because you're more aware of your own feelings, you're more aware of the wounds, what's wrong, you can articulate it. Other people as well are feeling this way. And so you're also able to sort of understand others' emotions better. It's not just that we're all more in touch with our own, we're all more in touch with others during Jupiter and Cancer too. Sometimes there can be a little bit of a tendency to be almost oversensitive with Jupiter and Cancer because we are so tuned in to emotions. When you're speaking with someone, you're really watching their body language, you're listening to their tone, you're aware of the specific words that they're speaking and what all of that might really mean. So that emotional sensitivity is great and can really be a very wise empathy. But sometimes it can be taken a bit far and it can be oversensitive and it could lead to misunderstandings or some sort of challenge. I think the key to that really might be to have that rest, to be coming at the situation from the best place possible for you so that your nervous system isn't coming into the mix. You know, you're feeling nice and calm and relaxed and good as much as you can as you move through the world, and that sort of should cut back on the tendencies for any kind of reactivity. But yeah, healing what's been broken is definitely possible with a transit like this. You know, themes around home, around your family of origin, around your roots or your foundation in some kind of way. Mother stuff can come up here, or any early feminine influence in your life. Those kinds of themes around home, your physical home where you live now. Anything that really feels like it's sort of um, at your roots, at your base, at your foundation. Those kinds of themes can come up at this time. I think that with Jupiter in Cancer, we're all going to be working on learning to trust our intuition more deeply, more profoundly, leaning into our instincts and our feelings, understanding that it's okay. And this also is connected to the fact that the South Node will be in Virgo for the entire time that we have this Jupiter in Cancer, and we have the North Node in Pisces. And this is all about releasing perfectionism, releasing a need to overdo, to overplan, to have everything logically worked out. And I think that the Jupiter in Cancer is really harmonizing so nicely with that, because it's about feelings as well and about trusting our intuition and our instincts. So, not needing to know exactly what's going to happen, not needing to have a whole plan or have everything all worked out, sort of being in a place more where you're able to say, well, I'm going to trust what feels right. This really, really feels right. So I'm going to listen to that. And then still keeping your questioning brain turned on, not deciding and then stopping deciding, but continuing to think about it, right? Because I think sometimes our feelings change, and that can be sort of a difficult aspect of following intuition and instincts. Like, you might really have a great feeling about a new opportunity, and that feeling could last for a little while. And then as you get in deeper, it could shift for some reason. Well, if you're honoring your feelings, you have to honor that shift as well. But it feels really good when we think we found something new, whether it's a new person, a new job opportunity, a new hobby, a new location that we enjoy exploring, a new restaurant, whatever it is. When you're excited about something, it can be hard to trust your feelings that are telling you to move away from it when they used to be saying the opposite. But I think that that's really important for navigating this time effectively, because I don't think we are going to really have a firm plan exactly for the next year or so. 2025 and 2026 are such shifting years. Um, in the collective, and then for us personally, really firmly moving into this new era. We've been in the shift for quite a while. Um, we've been in sort of a liminal space, but now we really are stepping firmly into this new time that is, I don't know, a couple decades long, where I see these sort of outer planets doing the same things. And I don't know, I think this Jupiter in Cancer is right on time in terms of learning to trust our feelings, our intuition, rather than needing to have a plan for everything. Because when everything is shifting and changing so much, it can be really difficult to feel like you know exactly what's going to happen and have a super firm plan. Um, and that's okay. So, there's also something about protecting our peace and our harmony on a new level with this Jupiter in Cancer. We're all sort of learning that value of peace, of harmony, of calm, and what it really means. And we're learning to be more protective of it. I also think that we're nurturing ourselves and finding that peace and harmony through that nurturing of ourselves and others in ways that are really genuine, right? That are really authentic. We're not just watching TV to relax because that's something we've always done or because it's something that we used to do. Um, and we're not doing anything out of duty or obligation either. We're really um, taking care of ourselves in a way that is genuine and authentic, and protecting our peace and harmony and nurturing ourselves and others without overdoing it, without overdoing the care of others, um, not to our own detriment, not giving so much that it depletes us more than it has to, because we're just understanding the real importance of staying grounded and feeling good, and how much more we have to give when we do that. I just want to mention and get again, because it's when I was talking before about the increased feelings of emotional security, increased feelings of belonging, and that sort of peace and harmony angle, it's similar to that. It's also just a desire for that. It's the achievement of it, Jupiter in Cancer, but Jupiter in Cancer also is the desire for the peace and the harmony, making that a priority, which is a great idea, a really great idea. And prioritizing a feeling of emotional security, of feeling secure, of feeling safe, of feeling like you belong, really making that more of a priority, and really understanding that it's not okay for it not to be. Being protective. Cancer is a very protective sign. It's so deeply emotional and feeling and warm and nourishing and nurturing and loving. And then also, no one will defend and protect like a Cancer. So there's that desire for those feelings of emotional security, and there's the protectiveness around anything that threatens it. At the same time, I don't want to overemphasize that sort of strong energy, because if anything, there's definitely a softening vibe to Jupiter in Cancer. In my horoscopes for June, which you should definitely check out on my channel for your rising sign if you haven't already. I have quite a lot more to cover here. I'm about halfway through, I think, with this video. But I talked about how it's a softening of hard edges. Something around that theme came up in almost every horoscope, beginning once Jupiter moved into Cancer around the 11th, and especially as Mercury begins to move off now when we get into the middle of June 2025. But as this transit continues, who knows when you're watching this report, this will be relevant for the entire year. Yeah, that softening of hard edges. Just, so as much as it's protective and defensive, there is a real sweetness and nourishment and kindness to Jupiter in Cancer. And I think after where Jupiter just was in Gemini, and because of the Mars retrograde that I mentioned before, there's a real cooling and calming of mental energy associated with this. Again, especially after Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini, we had two ideas about everything. we had 2 dinner dates. We had 2 different new jobs we were looking into. We had 2 purchases we wanted to make, at least 2. And just that we had different places we were trying to expand. You may have felt quite overextended in the last year. And then because Jupiter is in its detriment in Gemini, at the end of the day, you sort of may have ended up learning more about what you don't want and what doesn't work than what does. Jupiter in Cancer now couldn't be more different than this, right? There really may have been something with Jupiter in Gemini, and when Mars was retrograde in Leo, in Cancer, and also in Leo, but we're talking about the Cancer part right now. There really may have been something in your life last fall, winter, early spring, where you were putting a lot of energy, a lot of mental energy, a lot of physical energy, logistical energy. Logistical is a big thing with Jupiter in Cancer and with the Mars retrograde, but feeling like you just kept coming up against a wall, not really able to make as much progress as you wanted, and then kind of realizing more about what you don't want. Well, now as we get into Jupiter in Cancer, ooh, so sorry about that. I have such an amateur setup here, and I just fully knocked the phone off of my little stand. So let me just get reset up here. Was taking a drink of water. The benefits of a live broadcast. If you do have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I will check that out as soon as I'm finished here. I think it's kind of nice to see a little bit of the outside, isn't it? To see those trees up there. Sometimes we even get a bird or a little squirrel or something. I literally have been doing these videos for about 2 years now. It's now June of 2025, depending on when you're seeing this video. And I've really been doing them from my phone and my iPad. I really need to invest in a more mature setup, both the time and money into getting that all together. And I will, but I just want to get things sort of more off the ground first. And there's some things I really like about this setup. I really like being able to kind of gesticulate at the chart and add these little circles as needed and things like that as we go. So thank you. Apologies for that interruption. Hopefully it was all okay. So going back to what I was saying, all that mental energy sort of pouring into something and maybe not having it move forward as quickly as we might have liked or hoped. And then learning a little bit about what doesn't work and what we don't want and what we don't agree with, what we don't believe in, what doesn't expand us, what isn't an opportunity for growth. Now with Jupiter in Cancer, and these nodes, where they are in Virgo and Pisces, instead we're sort of letting go a little bit. There's a cooling of all that mental energy, and we're instead more comfortable being in a little bit of a feeling state. We're prioritizing feeling good and feeling secure and like we belong and safe. And whatever we prioritize, we tend to get more of. So prioritizing it means that we will land there more often. And this is falling in the exact part of the chart where we had all that difficulty with the Mars retrograde. So the hope is that through that nurturing, we're able to make some progress, maybe in a really different way than what was expected when we were going through the Mars retrograde. So it's just kind of a different way of moving through time. That Jupiter in Gemini was so mentally active and taught us more about what not to do. Now we're reconnecting with so many things, with our feelings, with our emotional safety and security, with our emotional center. Another important significator of Jupiter in Cancer and this transit that we'll all be going through for the next year is a feeling of reconnecting, a desire for reconnecting, and the reconnection itself with what really matters to you. Sort of at a heart level, what speaks to you, what you enjoy, whether that is a project, a person, really putting first your loves, your passions. Also, a literal interpretation of this, but this will show up for some people, is just home improvements, right? Cancer rules home, Jupiter is expanding, a great time for expanding the beauty of your home, making different home improvements in some kind of way, even building an addition, getting a new property, moving. It would be very auspicious for that kind of thing, for sure. Yeah, we're prioritizing our comfort, our nourishment, our coziness. Cancer loves being home. You might enjoy being home more than usual this year. Jupiter in Cancer loves being in bed, taking a nap, staying in bed a little longer in the morning, just hanging out in bed and watching, something on YouTube. There's a coziness and a nourishment to this upcoming year that I think will benefit us with all of the shifting energy happening in the rest of the chart. It's very emotionally open, right? We're generous at this time. Others are too, not closed. There's like this free emotional expression. People are sort of able to explain how they feel, um, and express their emotions with honesty. And sometimes that might come out a little bit more than is always necessary. I think that it's always an interesting idea to think about trying to sort of explain how you feel rather than express how you feel. It's easier for people to connect with what you're saying if the emotions are sort of at that level, but that's not always possible. And it's okay to be emotional too. It's okay, but we always just want to be careful where we do that, because it's amazing how differently it can be received by different people. So I think with this Jupiter in Cancer, there's a lot of emotional honesty and rawness, and we're learning to work with that more maturely, to show it to people where they're going to expand our feeling of security and belonging, to do that for other people when they show up that way. But there's also a boundaried part of this transit, where we are learning to protect our own peace and not overgive to the point that it totally depletes us. So it's generous emotionally in terms of the honesty, and that goes both ways. If it's feeling like too much, you'd probably be honest about that as well. But, our decisions are guided by our emotions and our feelings and our logic at this time. I'm sorry. Our decisions are guided by our emotions and feelings with Jupiter in Cancer. When we had Jupiter in Gemini, it was more about our logic. This is a new point now, right? Jupiter in Cancer is enabling us to make feelings, make feelings, make decisions from a place of our feelings, letting that be our guide, our intuition be our guide, our feelings and our emotions be our guide, not our logic and our reason all the time. There's also something incredibly fertile and creative about this transit. It's an amazing time, and this is that mother energy, right? That fertility. It's a great time to plant any kind of seed, to grow a project, to grow a family, for sure. And this is where tapping into what genuinely lights us up is so important. We want to grow our dreams, not someone else's dreams, not society's dreams, our own real, genuine, what lights us up. Those are the seeds to plant during Jupiter in Cancer, because whatever we're doing this year, which again, we only have Jupiter in Cancer every 13 years. So this is a great opportunity to plant those seeds for the things that you really genuinely want to grow. This is also more specifically an opportunity for expansion and growth in the area of your chart that is Cancer ruled. Be sure to check out horoscopes on my channel. The June 2025 horoscopes definitely have this information. They will continue to. We'll continue to talk about Jupiter in Cancer. If you enjoyed this video, you would enjoy my horoscopes. They are a bit more polished. And also, I think it's really interesting to think about the part of your chart that Jupiter governs and how that relates here. And also interesting to think about that in terms of the connection with the Mars retrograde that happened over the winter and fall and spring previous to now, to help you identify that part of the chart that might get better as we go. Okay, I'm seeing a question here from Drew. And Drew, you're saying your birthday is March 26th. That's very close to my birthday. If you know your rising sign, read horoscopes, watch horoscopes for your rising sign. And I know sometimes it can be hard to connect with our rising signs. I have a video about that, but it really is the right way to watch a horoscope, or, to view a horoscope, because it's the way we turn the chart. I have a video about that as well. I have a playlist on my channel about learning astrology that explains the way like why you should read your horoscopes for your rising sign, and also why your rising sign might be something you don't really feel like you connect with all the time. So I will link to those here and to some other astrology videos as well. Um, be sure to check out my channel to think a little bit more about where Jupiter in Cancer is falling for you, how that relates to the Mars retrograde that just occurred, and have a wonderful Jupiter in Cancer year, because it's really such an amazing opportunity. Thank you so much for being here.